up in the VA committee. But I want to ask a question of Mr. Garfield. Each day, my constituents are utilizing internet-enabled tools to access customers abroad in ways impossible a decade ago, of course. American industries, from manufacturing tools to financial services to agriculture, are increasingly reliant on the internet for their current and future global competitiveness, as you know. Unfortunately, U.S. internet services continue to face a number of market access and regulatory barriers. As governments continue to assert a heavy hand on U.S. internet services, how would you use trade policies to stop other countries from blocking or discriminating against the U.S. services and ensure that the U.S. continues to lead the world in innovation?
Thank you for the question. I would do what Congress suggested when it passed TPA, which is making sure that digital trade, trade promotion, cross-border data flows are a priority, and that we put in place mechanisms for holding markets accountable. It's not a theoretical issue. The United States is in the process of updating NAFTA and has said that they're on the path to do the same thing with the Korean trade agreement. I think in both instances, we have the opportunity to ensure that all of the things that you identified that have an impact on the ground in Florida are in fact addressed.
Thank you. Good answer. I appreciate that.
I tried.
Miss, I guess Espanol, is that how you pronounce it? Is that right? Okay, thank you. I have a question for you. In your testimony, you explain how the services and technologies provided by your member companies are fundamentally affecting the ways in which companies are running their businesses, accessing markets, interacting with clients and customers, and generally innovating. How can trade agreements be used to help advance U.S. standards and best practices in protecting innovation and intellectual property like copyright, trade secrets, and, of course, patents?
So one of the things that we've talked about a little bit today is the fact that right now one of the gaps in the international legal system is that there are no rules of the road. There is no international consensus on what data policy should be. And to me, it feels a little bit like where we were in the 90s with intellectual property investment and services, where there were the road, or at least no trade international rules of the road. And at the time, the United States stepped up, and as part of the negotiations that led to the establishment of the World Trade Organization, they said intellectual property, investment, services, clearly already important parts of the U.S. economy, clearly going to be even more important to the U.S. economy and the global economy. We need to have international trade rules. There need to be some internationally recognized parameters on how intellectual property, investment, and services should work cross-border. And the U.S. Pushed hard for that to happen, and I'm very confident without U.S. leadership it would not have happened, but it did, and eventually all the members of the WTO agreement, the WTO countries agreed that there should be international rules on intellectual property, investment, and services. It feels to me like we're at that moment again for data. Data is also new. Although there's been so much progress and advance already, this is still a new industry, and the way it's impacting industry sectors across the economy is still relatively new, and that is part of the reason why there are no international rules on it yet. And what I would ask Congress to do is to encourage the administration to look for places, NAFTA as an example, where we can start to set a precedent for international rules on data. I think it's clear that this is going to continue to be a very important part of the U.S. economy and the global economy. Like IP investment and services, I'm confident its importance to the economy will only grow over the next decade or so. And so we are going to need to have those rules. And I very much hope that this administration takes that mantle up and starts continues to work with countries around the world to try to set those rules. That, as a former trade negotiator, that is not going to be easy discussion. That is not going to be a few days of discussions with other countries. It's cutting edge issue, so it is going to be difficult, but it is so important, not just to our economy, but to the economy of our trading partners around the world, that I think it's very important. And so whether it's NAFTA, whether it's Korea, whether it's discussions with the European Union and the UK, whether it's discussions with Japan, whether it's discussions in multilateral venues like the GS and G8 and the G20, I would encourage the administration to be looking for every opportunity it can to start laying the groundwork, the ground rules for international trade rules on data.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman yields back, and the chair recognizes